Tonight's species is one of the most sought-after game fish on the flats. They are big, they make long screaming runs, and they love to tail on the flats. Tonight we're talking about the permit and all the rigs and techniques that you'll need to catch one. This is the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, powered by Harbor Trucks and presented by Yamaha.
You're tuning in to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and we're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy, who's back from his family vacay, all refreshed, ready to get back to work, not feeling crabby at all, right, Rick?
Nope. And you know what, Brie?
Nope.
I'm gonna give you a little deep Barry White.
Oh, good.
So when we were on our vacation, we listened to all kinds of plethoras of music, and
Yes.
Barry White just came out in my head as we were coming into the show, so I just thought I'd share that with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
Rick, we're
gonna
talking
be
about
laughing all night.
permit. We're talking about permit today, and they're always feeling crabby. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about these beautiful
Well, I gotta say, Bree, you know, the one thing that you have been with me when we filmed that Sportsman's Adventure episode, so you see permits in two different scenarios. A lot of times you'll see them on the wreck in 20 feet of water in the Gulf or on some type of structure. And when you do, that's when you see them a lot of times with their head bobbing out of the water.
Right.
They kind of look around. I think they even get gulp of air, but it's part of the way they bounce crabs out of floating debris.
Right.
The other thing that you'll see is you'll see them swimming down the edges of flats. And you don't see that flashing. What you do see is the fish tailing.
Tailing, right.
And they'll also, if there's groups of them, they'll also mud like a bonefish, but not quite as intense. You know, bonefish really, they stay down low. Permit, he'll grab something and then moves off.
Right.
And you'll get a little mud and puff from them that way. But in either case, they are so fun to catch.
They are very fun to catch. I remember we pulled up on, it looked like thousands of them.
There was
it was
hundreds
amazing.
for sure.
Well, yeah, hundreds.
And I'm sure you'll see some of that B-roll tonight
Yes,
as we
you
boys
will.
talk about it.
Exactly. All right. Well, someone who is always happy, never crabby, is Dave Ferrell at the CCA Workbench.
Well, he needs to wrap that chattiness up
Oh,
because
he's so chatty.
he's ruining our
Hey,
tips and techniques. We got
I
to talk
know.
5 minutes about that stuff, and he's just talking over there,
Don't
giving
worry.
away all the stuff before we get to come over here.
There's more where that
Because he's
comes
gonna help
from.
me. I got nothing.
Yes,
I'm not a
he's gonna help
permit
you.
guy.
Well, he's been gone for a week, so I'm sure you have a lot to say tonight, right, Rick?
I do. I
does.
mean, you know, I missed
All
you
right,
guys
okay.
terribly.
Oh,
So
thank
let's
you.
go.
We did miss you too. All right. Well, the gang is all back together, and we're headed into the Fish Bites East region with Captain Mike Holliday, where when it comes to permit, the hotter the weather, the better. Hi, Mike.
That's the truth, Bree. You know, the thing people don't realize is permit are a tropical species. They absolutely love the heat. And this time of year, they're up on the surface schooling during the hottest part of the day, like that noon to 3 o'clock type of range. Now, we got a really strong permit population in the East region. We have those beach fish that you find around the rock piles that are up close to shore, like down in Jupiter. Those fish tend to travel in singles or in pairs, sometimes three. We also have the inlet fish. Those fish are eating crabs that are coming out of the inlet on the outgoing tide. They travel in schools of 10 to 30 fish. And then we have those wreck fish. Those are schools that have anywhere from 30 fish to 500, 600, 700 fish. And they're eating shrimp and crabs out of the sargassum weed that are up on top or crabs off the bottom. And you always want to remember, permit are crustacean eaters. So you want to target them with a live shrimp or a crab. You can free line them out in the current on like a 3.0 VMC circle hook with a 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Or if they're in deep water, like out on the wreck, you can add a saltwater sassum, 3/8 ounce jig head. I like the chartreuse color best. Red's another good color. If you don't have a live crab, you can use a jumbo shrimp and a jig head, or a yellow jig, or just a regular jig, you know, a hair jig. Average permit in my region is going to be 15 to 25 pounds. I got a photo. That's James and his son Alex. They wrecked the permit this week fishing with Captain George Gotts at Jensen Beach. They were using live crabs for bait, and they said they caught a handful of them in the first 30 minutes. So the permit bite's on. The other thing, in the last week or so, it seems like the tarpon have all moved from the inshore waters out to the beach to take advantage of the arrival of the glass minnow schools and that early push of the fall mullet run. If you can find the minnows, you'll find the tarpon. There's been a good school of minnows north of Vero Beach up around the Disney property. They've been there for like a week or so. And then there's 2 or 3 schools that are somewhere between Fort Pierce and Hope Sound. They're moving on a regular basis. One day they're by the Black Condo. One day they're south of St. Lucie Inlet. The next day they're at Jensen Beach. So you just got to kind of find them. And then there's some acre-sized mullet schools that's 10 to 15-inch mullet. The difference is the minnows are going to attract way more tarpon than the mullet will. A live or dead 8 to 10-inch mullet, though, is a great bait to fish around the minnow schools. You can use it on the outside edge to slow trolling them. You can also fish them dead on the bottom. If lures are your game, you can toss a topwater plug. You'll see the tarpon 20 or 30 yards outside of the minnow schools, just kind of rolling and resting. That's where you want to throw the topwater plug. If you're going to fish right on the edge of the minnow schools, either from shore or from a boat, you want to fish an all-white saltwater shad, the saltwater sass saltwater shad, just working on the outside edge of the school. Average tarpon's going to be 40 to 80 pounds.
All right, what else you got for us, bub? Let's go offshore.
Yeah, the summertime sailfish bite is the gift to local anglers. It just keeps on giving. It just will not stop. Captain Pat Price on the Daymaker out of Stewart, he had 3 days this week where he caught at least 6 sailfish, or released at least 6 sailfish. What's nice is the fish have been pretty shallow, anywhere from those baitfish schools that are a half mile off the beach on out to about 70 feet of water is where the main concentrations are. Find the bait, you'll find the fish. And places like the Sand Pile, the 6 Mile Reef, and a bunch of those wrecks that are in 60 feet of water between St. Lucie Inlet and, say, the power plant, they're holding a lot of bait right now, so they're holding a lot of sailfish. There's huge bait schools around, more than I've seen in the last couple of years, so you have no problem catching bait, loading up on pilchards or threadfish or sardines. Then it's just a matter of finding the bait schools, targeting a handful of wrecks or artificial reefs, and then just putting out live baits, either drifted or slow trolled. Put them out on a 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, a 7.0 VMC tournament circle hook, and you'll get plenty of action. Average sailfish is going to be 30 to 40 pounds. But in the exact same areas that the sailfish are holding, those same reefs and wrecks, the same bait schools, there's also a ton of kings. So all you have to do is add 10 inches of wire leader to your rig, and you're in for that sailfish, kingfish, 1-2 punch. And then with this week's full moon, it's actually today. Today's Thursday. This week's full moon, there's going to be a really good nighttime kingfish bite for the next couple of days around the nearshore bait schools, as well as along the edge off Jupiter and on the Loran Tower Ledge and on the 6 Mile Reef. Now, by far the best bait for kingfish is a lively Spanish sardine. But when the fish are schooled up, you can pretty much catch them on anything from a pilchard to a mullet to a blue runner, a goggle eye. They're going to eat in. You can even troll lip plugs and do pretty well. You can drift and fish them on 50-pound fluorocarbon leader and a triple hook Palm Beach rig, or you can slow troll the baits on a wire stinger rig. If you're trolling them, make a lot of turns to give the bait some flash. Average king right now is like 8 to 12 pounds. A lot of 20-pounders in the mix right now. I got a photo there. That's Mark Beatty. He caught his king from a school of bait fish on the beach. They were live chumming and throwing a fly, and that fish ate a live threadfin.
All right, let's go ahead. What else you got? Do you want to tell me a little bit about the bass, bub?
Yeah, man. With all that rain we've had this week, that's really helped the bass fishing on the Kissimmee Toho chain. What it's done is it's raised the lake level about 16 inches and dropped the water temperature. Last week the water temperature was in the 90s. Now it's about 83 degrees. That's moved the bass out of the deeper holes where they've been trying to keep cool, up into the shallows. I was talking to Captain Steve Niemiller of BassOnline.com. He's saying the fish have moved back up into the Kissimmee grass along the shorelines, and an alewife-colored twitch assassin, crystal shad-colored dyed napper, or a topwater plug work over that grass is going to get an explosive strike up until about 8:30. Then it's time to go to the shell beds on the outside edges of the grass and fish them with either an 8-inch June bug color worm with just an 1/8 ounce of lead on it, working it really slow, or fishing with a live shiner. It's a 15 to 20 fish morning, 3-pound average, so really good bite going on Kissimmee Toho, up in the shallows, up near shore.
All right, Mike, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots from the Fish Bites East region. He says inshore tarpon, snook, and Spanish mackerel on the minnow schools at Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge. White saltwater assassin swim baits or live mullet are going to work for them. And then offshore, sailfish, kingfish, and snappers at the Sand Pile off of Stewart. live Spanish sardines, cigar minnows, and pilchards should be the choice for those guys.
The sailfish, kingfish, 1-2 punch. All right,
it.
let's head down to the Casa Vieja Southeast region where Captain Jimbo Thomas has a thing or two to tell us about permit in his waters. Go for it, Jimbo.
Dave, Brie, Rick, and Dave. Well, you know, most fishermen in the Southeast region think of permit as an inshore fish that are found on the flats, but there's plenty of them caught on the offshore reef and wrecks. Now, regardless of where you're fishing for them, they can be caught year-round, and in the spring and the full moons of March and April, those permit will school up to spawn on the offshore wrecks in anywhere from like 50 to 100 feet of water, and on calm days, you can spot them flashing or mooning up near the surface. Then they're also commonly caught off the beaches and in the inlets throughout the region. But by far the most popular way to hunt permit is on the flats. Now, when the wind blows, pushing in lots of sargassum weed, those permit can be found along the edges of the flats and channels, and they'll be feeding on small crabs and shrimp that are holding in that seaweed. And then when the wind drops out and the weed doesn't get pushed into the bay, that's when it's best to look for those permit tailing, mudding, or just cruising on the flats. Now, you want to look for flats with hard bottom that hold crabs, sea urchins, and other crustaceans that those permit feed on. And regardless of where the permit are, the best bait by far is a live silver dollar-sized crab. Now, very rarely will a permit pass up a crab. You can get it in his path. If he can see it, he's going to eat it. Also, live shrimp, pink 1/8 to 1/4 ounce skimmer jigs, and crab pattern flies. Those are also great baits to catch a permit. Now, Captain Joe Gonzalez, he says that the ideal permit fishing day is light wind in the morning, and you want to fish those permit fishing wakes and finning. And then as the afternoon goes on and the wind picks up to 10 or 12 miles an hour, that allows for improved sight fishing when you got a little chop with less glare. Now, lately, he's been finding permit on the inside and outside flats from Soldier's Key, South Angelfish Creek, and he's been fishing the hard bottom oceanside flats in anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of water. And then around the Ragged Keys, he's been finding schools of 7 to 12-pound permit on the incoming tide. And then we got catch and release snook fishing in the inlets and off the beaches. Now, these snook, they're schooled up in all of the inlets throughout the region. They're being caught on live pinfish, pilchards, herrings, croakers. You want to fish them near the bottom on a Jupiter rig. And a lot of these snook, they've been up into the 20-pound range. So you want to use at least 50-pound fluorocarbon leaders and 5/0 to 6/0 circle hooks. And if there's no live bait available, try working flare hawk jigs or 4 to 5 inch bass assassin jerk baits along the bottom. Now, both the incoming and outgoing tides, they've been good when the water's been murky. Otherwise, the outgoing tide has been good early in the morning or late in the afternoon into the evening. Now, there's also been snook roaming the beaches, especially in the north end of the region, say from Boak Inlet north to Lake Worth Inlet. And these fish can be sight fished early in the morning off the beach or by boat. You want to use live croakers and pilchards or herrings, or 4 to 5 inch jerk baits in green and white in pearl colors. Now, moving offshore, we're still finding dolphin offshore on a daily basis, and on average, the size has gotten quite a bit better. We're still finding some schools of small fish, but the bulk of the fish have been in anywhere from like the 5 to 8 pound range with some larger fish mixed in. Now, just like in the past month, fish have been offshore anywhere from about 8 to 15 miles around big patches of sargassum weed, floating debris, and also under birds. And the larger fish have been traveling to the south. Now, the few of the fish are being caught on the troll using rig ballyhoo and small lures, and that is if the seaweed isn't too bad. And then once the school is located, they're being caught on small live pilchards, small blue runners, also on cut bonita and ballyhoo. Now, there's been plenty of bait out there under all these patches of grass and any of the floaters you find. So it's a good idea to keep your sabiki handy, and you can drop it down and restock the well with these small blue runners, and that's exactly what these dolphin are eating. Now, I got a photo here, and this is a 40-pound dolphin caught aboard the Cutting Edge with Captain Quentin Dieterle, and he caught this last Saturday, and this is definitely the biggest dolphin I've heard of in the past week. A lot bigger than any that I've caught, that's for sure.
Nice. All right, let's
now
go.
We got nighttime snapper fish has also been excellent throughout the region, especially for the mangrove. There's also been some muttons and yellowtails mixed in. And with this heat, getting out in the evening is not a bad idea. The snapper have been hanging on the outside reef in 40 to 80 feet of water, being caught on dead sardines, silver sides, and pilchards. Want to fish them on the bottom with the knocker rig, 20 to 30 pound leader and 1/0 to 3/0 hooks. They've been catching them anywhere from 2 to 6 pounds, and the best bite has been after 10 o'clock. And if you got some lights on the boat, there's going to be pilchards and goggle eyes coming up on the lights. You can drop your sabiki down, catch some live baits, fire them back down, catch these nice snappers. But the sharks have been a big problem, eating a lot of the fish lately.
All right, thank you so much, Jimbo. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the southeast region. Jimbo says inshore. Look for the snook in the inlets and off of the beaches in the early morning and the evening using live and artificial baits. And then offshore, hunt for the dolphin 5 to 15 miles offshore around the patches of sargassum, floating debris, and under any birds, Brie.
All right, coming right up here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, we're going fishing in the Bell's Southwest region. Whoa! And then seeing what Dave is going to tell us about fishing for permit at the CCA workbench for Academy Sports rigs and techniques.
We're just going to listen to Rick talk.
I knew you were going to say that.
He's going to show us how to fish these crabs, which is what they really like to eat.
That dude looks crabby.
He does.
Wow. There'll be 3 crabbies over there. Okay, we'll be back.
Oh, not nice.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Harbor Trucks. Visit harbortrucks.com. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats. Always in the game. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck. Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper-to-bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Meet the water's lightest 25 horsepower 4-stroke, the all-new Yamaha F25, the new standard and 25 horsepower portable 4-strokes. At just 126 pounds, it's got the best power-to-weight ratio of any 25 horsepower 4-stroke on the water. With performance that bests the previous Yamaha F25 and features like Yamaha's VTS for precise trolling speeds, batteryless EFI, built-in resting pads, and carry handles, it's the perfect portable power for small boats.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left. There's no cycle.
When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench and the Academy Outdoors.
Yep.
We got to talk about rigs and techniques, of course.
Correct, and we're talking about Permit. You know, Permit is a really powerful fish. He's chased a lot in this state. He's a jackfish, so he's a strong swimmer. He's got that big tail, big wide body that he uses against you when you're fighting him. And he's just a great fish to catch. And, you know, some people even eat him, I hear. Most people let him go, but some people eat him. So anyway, you probably let all yours go, right?
I do.
I know you do.
I do.
And you were talking before that you could catch them in 2 different places. You catch them in the flats or on deep water wrecks. Is there a certain time of the year that you chase them one place or the other, or are they in both places at once?
That's a great question. And you know what happens, Dave, is they show up in the spring, you generally on the wrecks. It's part of a pre-spawning gathering, you know?
Right.
And so that's when you find them, when you heard Jimbo talking about up mooning and flashing, that's what you see in deep water most of the time. Versus swimming down the edge, just like Jimbo described it, is what happens when they decide to break up after that spawn, and now they just start to go make a living individually instead of in big groups.
Now, are they always like in just by themselves on the flats, or is there like more than one?
You'll see two or
threes?
three at times. You know, sometimes you know, in Key West, which is a very, very permitty area, you'll see 4 or 5 swimming down the edge. And the smaller fish have a tendency to be more in the groups. The singles, the bigger fish, have a tendency to be by themselves because they don't want to have to compete for what food is there.
Right. But they're on that flats, it's going to be a high tide kind of fishery. That's like
It's
bonefish
always
and whatnot.
the last 2 or 3 hours of the incoming, and maybe the first hour of the outgoing is your higher percentage of tide because that's when you have the most water on flats. So
That's
good
when they like
question.
to get up there and try to eat stuff.
So you heard Jimbo talk about the right size crab.
Right.
And he
We'll show
said
you
a
some.
silver dollar. So I'll show you. Here's a crab.
Ooh, and a shrimp.
See, this crab would be the right size for a tarpon. And let me show you what we use as a measuring tool. If you can lay this crab, and we call him an A-OK crab, if his shell is inside of that, then what would happen is that's the perfect
good
size.
one.
If he's too big, then what ends up happening is you can feed a permit probably this,
hold this one.
in a big group, you know, in the Gulf. But look at the difference. See how his body fits perfectly. Now that to me is the right size. You can see the difference here on these guys as far as the size. You know, now when it comes to rigging them or however you're going to hook them the same way. I'm going to put this little guy, use him, he's a volunteer.
Right.
We could use a 5-0, 4-0 circle hook. We're going to just hook them right here in the side.
It's hard
My
to get
hands
through
are
there.
wet. My hands are wet. Anyway, we wiggle that through. I'm gonna
They're hard, aren't
let you
they?
do that, Dave,
Okay.
because my hands are wet. I can't do it.
I gotcha.
But while you're doing that, the key is that you're gonna want, if you're fishing on the flats, I like mono. You can use braid. You're gonna have to have a big leader. But ideally, what you're gonna do if you're fishing on the flats is you're gonna use a tiny split shot so that the current allows the crab to fall into the grass. Remember this, Dave, presentation is everything in getting a bite out of a permit. When you throw, we wanna crash the crab or even a big shrimp, we wanna throw it right in the fish's face so that it's a reaction bite, but don't move it when he sees it. Because if you twitch it, it's not natural. He wants to eat this crab before it
it's
gets
diving.
to the grass. He's gonna dive like this, and that's why we put that additional split shot, because on the flats and you're fishing on the channel edges, the current is a lot stiffer. So if you close your bail and the line's tight, a lot of times this crab will skim on the surface and they don't like that as much. Now, crabs aren't always available. So what you would do with this is you would want to use like a J hook. If you don't have a J hook, you can simply tail hook a shrimp,
Or even a jig, huh?
right? And hook him like that. Or that's a great thing. The jig, they love yellow. You heard Jimbo talk about yellow. So you could take, in either case, a crab or a shrimp and either hook them in the tail or hook them in come out the top of the horn here like this. And that works really well. Same thing, you can just hook him right here in the corner where the hook would go here.
Right.
And then that way, in 30 or 40 feet of water, you'd be able to get that to come out and drift as it sinks. You're gonna throw a 50 or 60 foot cast, put the rod in the rod holder, and just let it settle and sink down, and that jig head will take it.
And that's when it'll eat it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
You did a great job.
Good job, man.
All right, Bree.
Yeah, good job, Dave.
We ran out of time, man.
All right, Captain Ronnie Houston is the man with the plan in the Bell's Southwest region, so let's see what he has planned for everyone this weekend. Hey, Ronnie.
Well, like I say, it's always a pleasure representing the Bell's Southwest region. You know, the permit, these fish are mostly targeted on the offshore side throughout the whole Southwest region. Now, April through October seem to be the better times, which would be early spring as the water temps start to warm up, and until late fall until the water starts to cool and winter starts to begin to set in. Now, structure is always going to be the key, generally, unless you get some scattered fish roaming the flats, rock piles, wrecks, and artificial reefs, and at times traveling with migrating tarpon from south to north. Baits include live shrimp, bright-colored bucktails, tipwood shrimp, soft plastic shrimp imitations, but the number one bait is generally going to be a 50-cent piece size live crab. Free-lining crabs in the current are just a little weight to keep them down if you're anchored up on the structure or drifting across the structure or even on the outskirts of it up to a quarter mile away from the structure, 360 degrees around the structure. Now, fluorocarbon leaders can vary from 30 to 60 pound leader, depending upon what type of structure you're fishing and how close you are to it. And I've got a prime example of some nice permit that are always being caught to the south with Captain Brian Sanders. So if you're looking to catch some nice permit and learn, Captain Brian Sanders on the south side down here is your man. Now, still on the offshore side, the mangrove snappers. Captain Corey McGuire says again, the mangrove snapper bite seems to be in full swing as long as we have some good weather to get offshore from Sanibel to Stump Pass. He's telling me fish wrecks and ledges, and the depths are going to vary anywhere from 70 to 115 feet of water. He's telling me right now is the time to catch a lot of fish right now in the 4 to 6 pound range. He says heavy chumming, flatlining, or on a jig head, 20 to 30 pound fluorocarbon. Chumming a variety of ways. You can either use box chum, glass minnows, carp sardines, shrimp, but he's telling me nothing beats free-lining live white baits. And I've got a cartload of mangrove snappers just caught recently with Captain Corey McGuire up to the north. Now on the inshore side, the redfish. Captain Danny Latham says the inshore bite has been pretty good on the higher stages of the tide, especially with the west winds we've had in the last couple of days, which also generally makes the tide and the current a little higher. Concentrate on the deeper shorelines along the east wall from Matlacha to Alligator Creek, the Indian Fields, and the west wall. He's telling me live pilchards as well as cut mullet in the heat of the day or cut ladyfish for artificial soft plastic paddle tails. Also shrimp imitations on a jig head, skipped under the bushes. Also, he's telling me if you're really looking to catch a good oversized redfish, nothing beats a live pinfish, knocker rigged on a point. And I got a nice picture of a nice redfish oversized caught while fishing with Captain Danny Latham. Now, still on the inshore side, snooks. Goodland to Rabbit Key on the outer Gulf Islands, especially at the change of the outgoing tide. You know, with all the rain we've had, the water has changed colors, but the outer Gulf Islands have seemed to have an abundance of bait, whether it be finger mullet or small schools of pilchards, seem to be holding good numbers of snook. Once you get in these schools of bait, you're going to see them, you're going to vary from island to island. You get in them, you want to power pull down and fan cast through these baits. Now, the Bass Assassin 4 and sea shads in black, but a new color I just tried a couple days ago. The northern minnows seem to be matching the hatch to catch me some snooks, but a quarter-ounce gold and silver spoons, and the number size 6 twitch and mullet, Oliver white, live pilchards, and the Rapala skitterwalks and trout with black and silver. And I got a picture of a nice snook that was just caught with me with a gentleman working the pattern we talked about. And I ran into a gentleman at the ramp, Ethan Garcia. He's a fan of the show. He lives on the East Coast with a nice 22-inch trout. Guys, get ready. Snook season's fixing to open up in a couple of weeks. Keep an eye on the reports. Also, Take a Soldier Fishing's coming up. Got to come out and support the troops on the weekend of September 8th. And towards the end of the month, Romp in the Swamp in the weekend of the 27th to 28th. So we got a lot of good things coming up in September in the Southwest region.
All right, thank you so much, Ronnie. Great report from the Bell's Southwest region. We're going to take a look at the Caddy Can hotspots, and Ronnie says inshore trout. Low tide grass flats from Rabbit Key to Lossman's River in the outer Gulf Islands from Goodland to Indian Key at the high water. And then offshore, red grouper, Sanibel to Stump Pass as close as 70 feet out to 120. Fishing hard bottom with cut squid, sardines, and herring.
There's a lot going on in the Southwest region, that's for sure.
The dudes are on it tonight.
They are. All right, Rick, another weekend with no tagged redfish recaptured.
What?
I know.
They're not on
So that means CCA Florida Stars still has time for you to catch fish and win. There's still over 2 weeks of fishing left with 11 species, 17 divisions, and $500,000 in prizes to be won, including boat, motor, and trailer packages, Yamaha motors, marine electronics, tackle, and so much more. Plus, if you enter your catch in the inshore and offshore divisions, you can win a trip with one of our FIFR captains. Just go to ccafloridastar.com to get registered and win big. Sounds good to me.
You know what?
What?
Let's go fishing Monday and we'll maybe catch one.
Okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's just go do that.
Okay. All right, sneaking up on us next is the Garmin Keys and Startron Central West regions. So get ready to reel, and the Florida Insider Fishing Report will be back in just a minute minute.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Swift, Silent, Secure, Bass Assassin, and Saltwater Assassin. The best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Kubota, find a Kubota dealer near you at gokubota.com. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of new and used car and truck inventory in Southwest Florida. Our used vehicle inventory goes through a 120-point inspection process performed by certified technicians. Exclusive to Florida Insider Fishing Report viewers is our Peace of Mind Harbor Truck Warranty. If you don't see what you're looking for, give us a call and we can get it for you. Go to harbortrucks.com and click on the Florida Insider Fishing Report tab.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere, and there's no place I'd rather be. I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere, and time don't matter to me, 'cause I'm 1,000 miles from nowhere.
If you own a boat, you're probably in an area where there's a lot of salt water in the air, a lot of UV rays, a lot of sun coming down, beating on your boat. The best thing to do is to have a custom cover that's going to protect everything on your boat. We specialize here in covers, basically from your technical skiff up to your large yachts. Any type of cover that we do is going to be a custom fit, so the templates or everything is for that each individual piece. Well, we're going to go out to the boat and we need to see the boat, how we're going to set it up and design the cover, and then we make the template. Considering the design, it's going to be all custom measured to that specific boat. It's going to take up to 3 hours maybe to get a template done for your custom fit cover. We only use 2 different materials, the best materials in the market, and we definitely suggest this umbrella. It's waterproof. It's been around for a very long time. It's a proven material. It doesn't fade. It lets it breathe. The boat's going to breathe a little bit, so you're not going to be trapping in all the condensation, the moisture from especially here in Florida. Other than that, this is how we strap to the trailer, to the engine. It's going to be with the webbing strap and buckles. This is just so much easier for everybody. It's just a clip in, clip out, just at one time. You're good to go. You'll get detail on these covers. And we protect all the shiny stuff with the soft touch liner, okay? And you're not going to have any loose material coming off your cover, because I lock stitch everything. Another thing we do to create detail on our covers and to protect and for your cover to last longer is we do these flaps to protect the zipper. Okay, and that's going to keep the salt water off your zipper. It's going to keep the sun off your zipper, and you'll have a zipper for a long time. If you're interested in one of our covers, just go to our website, thecaptainstailor.com. It has all our information in there.
You know, Brie, to have a custom cover, it's just so different because it is made to fit the boat. It's protecting, as he said there,
Yep.
all the shiny parts. Plus, there's no swaying in the middle where water congregates, you know, and
Worth
that's
the
the
money.
difference, you know.
Yeah.
It's well worth the money, absolutely.
Yeah, and you got nice zippers too.
Yes.
Covered zippers.
Yeah.
Okay,
UV
Captain.
protected zippers.
Exactly. Captain Randy Chow says to grab a crab and head on out if you want to catch a permit in the Garmin Keys region. So let's hear it, Randy.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, when we talk about permit fishing, we have them throughout the Keys on the ocean side and also on the bay side, and it really depends on your style of fishing. A lot of guys like to get up on top of the flats and sight fish permit on a particular tide phase or time of year. Right now, we've got some pretty big tides with the full moon, and we just had some king tides recently. And when you see a tide chart to understand what you're looking at, when you see those arrows going up and down and that water level being extremely high, that's going to allow a good movement of water. And a lot of these permit will get in areas where oftentimes they can't go because there's not enough water. So the flats guy kind of have their own little world of figuring out how to catch their permit. And then just the same on the offshore guys, whether you're on a wreck or you're in the Gulf of Mexico, you might pull up to a spot in deeper water and find your permit up near the surface. One of the great things I like to do is do that in the backcountry and on certain tides and conditions when the winds are down and these fish are up on top. There's nothing more exciting to pull up to a big school of permit and throw your crab out there. And chances are, if that permit sees it, he's going to bite it. They're usually very cooperative with a quarter-sized crab in front of them. They are not going to turn it down. Now, talking about big permit, I have a photo from Captain Jared Roscobb, a young guide in town who is doing extreme things. And it's not very often you can catch a permit over 40 pounds, but this was one they caught just a few weeks ago.
Nice. All right, let's go. Let's stay inshore. What else you got for us, bub?
You know, August is red fishing, and especially around the Flamingo area. You know, the redfish get up on the flats around there, and they also get on the edges of the flats and the channels where that water runs off, especially when the water temperature heats up, like middle of the day when you have an outgoing tide. If you have an incoming tide like we've had recently, you get that nice cool water in the morning coming up on the flat, and those redfish are going to be up there doing their thing, and you can take advantage of that the first couple of hours, maybe till 10 o'clock, depending on your tide. Once that tide starts to fall and that water gets off the flat, they're going to be in some deeper areas, like some of the shorelines or channels and edges where it might be 4 or 5 feet deep. Now, a pilchard, a pinfish on a jig head, something that I really like to do. And oftentimes when you're snook fishing, you're going to catch redfish as well. They're kind of in the same place doing the same thing to catch them. But we were snook fishing just the other day, and I've got a photo of Sam from Orlando with his first redfish he caught in the backcountry.
Nice. All right, let's go offshore, bub.
Dolphin fishing is still pretty good. Now, you know, there are some guys that go out and they don't see any dolphin, they don't catch any, and they think dolphin season's over and there's no dolphin, and yet you got other guys that consistently go out there and they get into them, and really recognizing your conditions are key. Weeds, birds, watercolor, current, these are all things that are going to help you locate a dolphin, and if you understand these different things, it's going to make it better, and it might separate your day from catching schoolies versus catching big slammers. Now, the last few days, the current, we're talking about the Gulf Stream water, has been about 30 miles offshore. So off of Isla Mirada, that's a pretty good run, and that Gulf Stream will vary. Some days it's 30 miles, some days it's 15 miles, but just happens to be way out. And when you get in this area, there's weed lines, there's birds, there's activity, and it's almost like you can't miss what's going on with the weeds and the bait and the dolphin. So that's where the guys have been. Captain Brian Cohn, he's our dolphin expert. He does this every day, and he knows how to catch these big dolphins. He sent me this picture of some slammers they caught just a few days ago.
Nice. That dude he must be a dolphin reincarnated or something, dude. All right.
He's gotta be.
All right, tell us a little bit about some deeper water stuff. What you got?
So, the swordfish fits into the equation because right now you're going to go offshore, you're going to pass by the humps in the morning and catch tuna, you're going to keep looking for your dolphin offshore. And like I said, they've been out in the deep water, 2,000, 2,500 feet, and that's where some nice fish have been. So when you're out that far, a lot of guys bring their swordfish gear and they make a drop, especially middle of the day when the water heats up and things slow down. And the swordfish bite has been very consistent for guys, 1,500, 1,600 feet, and it seems like that edge from off of Islamorada down toward Marathon has been very consistent. Now, the trick is getting your bait to the bottom, having enough lead to hold the bottom where you can keep your line vertical, and then pay real close attention to your rod tip because it'll move just a little bit when you're getting a bite, but you want to know and you want to recognize what that is all about. Captain Nick Stanzik on the Broad-Minded out of Bud Mary's is probably one of the best at doing this. He does it every day, and he's been catching swordfish on every trip, and I think he caught 4 the other day, and he's just doing a bang-up job. Now, also, Captain Davy Jones, you hear me talk about him quite a bit with Munster Fishing out of the Square Grouper in Islamorada. He's no slouch at this either, and I've got a photo of a swordfish they caught a couple of days ago doing all of what we just said.
That's a swordfish.
That is a really cool pictures. Good job, guys. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Florida Keys region. He says that we're going to go inshore snook fishing, fish the rising tide from Flamingo to Cape Sable. Early morning fishing has been the best with live bait like pinfish or pilchards. And then offshore, dolphin, look for the weed lines in 700 to 800 feet of water. Birds and weeds are a good combination, and make sure you have your rod ready to cast at any swimming dolphin that you see by the boat, right, Brie?
Yep, exactly. All right, there's always tournaments to talk about in the Garmin Keys region, so let's take a look, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Just a few weeks remain for the 2019 Key West Fishing Tournament, a free entry multi-division challenge that ends August 31st. Catches and witnessed releases can be entered at several tackle shops throughout the Lower Keys and Key West or at the tournament's website. Key West Robert James Slam Tournament, set for September 6th through the 8th, targets tarpon, permit, and bonefish, so anglers can seek the coveted Flats Grand Slam. The slam raises funds for cystic fibrosis, treatment, and research. Reef Environmental Education Foundation's 10th Upper Keys Lionfish Derby is set for September 13th through the 15th and is hosted by the Postcard Inn in Islamorada. Activities feature awards for lionfish captured, fillet demonstrations, raffle prizes, and more. The Herman Lucerne Memorial Backcountry Fishing Championship is set for September 20th through the 22nd in Islamorada. It raises funds to support angler-oriented initiatives in Everglades National Park and Florida Bay. Information on all tournaments in the Florida Keys is available at flakeys.com. Now, what do you think of that?
I think that you did a good job.
Thanks.
That's a lot to read,
It
love.
is. It is. All right, the Startron Center West region is up next, and I know Captain Jeff Page has a lot to say, so Mr. FaceTime, let's hear it.
What do you got going
Hey.
on, Paige?
I think we need to bring them Watts brothers back to that Herman Lucerne one time.
They won it for 2 times, so that's pretty awesome.
I know it. You know what? You don't even need a permit to catch permit in the Startron Central West region. You just need a slick, calm day out there in the Gulf, and you're going to have a good day out there permit fishing. The key, Rick, is finding the right structure where they're holding up, and we catch them year-round, but probably the best months can start as early as March and go right through the summer into October, November. 70 feet of water on out. And like I said, slick calm is really going to help you. You're going to find them held up on top over the structure, be it an artificial reef or wreck. It's a good idea to at least have a dozen past crabs or small blue crabs that you can float back to them. Setting up ahead of the wreck or reef is the ideal situation, and letting your crabs free line back. If it's a little choppy, it's a good idea to use a small split shot. 4 inches above the small 2 to 3/0 circle hook, and try and use as light a fluorocarbon leader as you can. 30 pound is a good starting point. Our fish average 12 to 15 pounds, but we also catch a lot of 20 to 30 pounders. In the bay, certain times of the year, usually later in the summer, smaller permit, 8 to 12, will push up into the bays around sandbars and grass flats, and also along the sandbars just outside the passes. A good example is the pass out there at Passage Key. A lot of permit are caught in the summer months there. If you like to throw fly, you can throw a shrimp or a crab pattern at them. And then the U-Pro Flats jig works real well in pink and white and yellow and white. I've got 2 permit photo tonight. First one of Paul and Greg Knopf of Family Boating with a permit they caught with me in the bay. And then the second one is with Jason and Brandon of Power Pole, J&L Marine. They caught a couple big permits with Captain Billy of Suncoast Fishing Charters. Staying offshore, amberjacks. You know what, Rick? I've been mentioning it the last 3 weeks because it just keeps getting better and better. Amberjacks are in season, and as we move into August, the bigger jacks are moving in a little closer, but they're still out in 120 to 150 feet of water. Captain Tim Noe of the Flying Fish Fleet says make sure he goes out with a good live well full of blue runners and big pinfish, and he's going to be able to bring them up to the surface with maybe some smaller pilchards, and he's catching them up to 65 to 70 pounds. Got a photo tonight of Captain Tim and his crew of the Flying Fish with the winning amberjack from the Sarasota Slam this past weekend. Moving inshore, snook fishing. Snook bite remains strong. Probably your bigger fish are being caught at night around the Manatee River Bridge, also down south around the Peace and the Myakka Bridge. Big sand brim, big ladyfish, silver mullet are the bait of choice for the nighttime guys. If you want to catch them in the day, it's a good idea to use a 4-inch golden brim sea shad, saltwater assassin with a 1/4 ounce jig head around the oyster bars and mangroves on the higher stages of the tide, which are right about midday. Got a snook photo tonight of John Snook Slayer Gigalotti with a big snook he got in the Manatee River. My last species, mangrove snapper. You know, the redfish and trout and snook all being closed. If you want to take some inshore fish home to eat for the dinner plate, mango snapper's the way to go. You can find them in all our bridges and intercoastal waterway rock piles. Also, on the deeper parts of the grass flats in South Tampa Bay as well as North Sarasota Bay. My last photo is Miss Carol Strickland of Mermaid Vodka with a big mango snapper she caught with me. And then real quick, a young gentleman named Caleb Bennett. They're having a benefit for him this weekend out of the Braden Inn Yacht Club this Saturday. It's going to be Hook 'em for Caleb, and all the proceeds go to helping him out because he had a bad accident last week at the Braden Inn Yacht Club. So they're putting on a big tournament. Jason Ramsey and all the boys are putting it on. For more information, you can call me or email me.
All right, good job, Paige. Let's help Caleb out.
Yep.
And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck. Central West hotspots inshore, redfish. Big over slot size reds are hitting it on the afternoon outgoing tide, on live pinfish, on a knocker rig, in all the inlets from Venice Jetty north to Egmont Key, and then offshore permit holding on artificial reefs, as well as the wrecks off of Anna Maria in 70 to 110 feet of water. Live pass crabs are going to be the best bait.
All right, well, we're getting the next captain on the line from the Bell's Central East region. Sit tight, because first we're headed to the CCA workbench to see what kind of new shiny products Dave has.
I've got a lure with a camera in its butt.
What?
That's what I got. No kidding. Look at that. Look at that.
Come on, Dave.
Oh, that. You can have fun with that. Okay.
You can see what's coming up in the rear.
Yes.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, for all, for less. Soft Science, Supreme Comfort Footwear. Real Legends, exclusively at Bell's. Okuma, Inspired Fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 offshore 4-strokes. For those that like their V6 lighter, faster, and stronger. Setting new standards for power, efficiency, speed, and lightweight. Built for the rigors of offshore boating. Packed with Yamaha's legendary reliability. And now Yamaha's 4.2-liter V6 4-strokes offer a choice between digital or mechanical controls to match your rigging preference. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
How do you aim a 36-yard shot with a 30-yard fixed pin at a 15-degree angle with a 7-inch holdover without moving a single pin? Easy. You get one of these. Zero, the auto-ranging digital bow sight from Garmin.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and as you know, Dave, we got to talk about new products, and we certainly have a bunch here, so we better get to it.
Well, we'll give you this right now. This is the Bubba electric fillet knife, and I don't know if you've ever used an electric knife. If you have, they're awesome. I mean, they cut really good, and if you're doing a bunch of fish, it's a great thing to have. What's really cool about this one, it comes with 2 different blades. It comes with this really nice, very thin 7-inch blade, and it also has the 9-inch extra stiff that you're pulling out of the case there. And you know, this is a very flexible blade. You can see how small it is, and which is really weird for an electric knife because most of the time they have a pretty wide blade and you can't really do much with them other than, you know, cut a turkey or something. But with this one, you can do a lot of different things. It'll bend and get around those bones and whatnot. It's got a titanium nitride coating on the blades, so they're really slick and they don't stick to anything. Really nice trigger guard on there and a good grip, and always ergonomic stuff on the Bubba blades, little places where you can put your fingers and hands to make that thing work. So you go to bubbablade.com to get that. All right, this is that little lure I was showing you. It's called the Eco Popper, and what it does is it connects to your phone through your mobile device. Yeah, through your app. You can actually even use it on any some of the screens that have a Wi-Fi connection. You can run it on a Hummingbird screen, attach it to your, you know, if you've got Wi-Fi on the little device, then it'll hook, because this comes with its own little Wi-Fi inside of it that you hook up to your phone. And once you get on there, it comes live streaming to your phone. You can either choose to take a picture, or you could hit a movie and record it, and it'll go for 60 or 70 minutes actually on one charge. It's a pretty awesome little camera in there. You can either have them come up and get a view of this thing when they're eating it, or you can actually put a trailer on it and get a really good view 2 feet down, have a little lure down there swimming behind it or whatnot, and get really cool video of fish coming up. Even if you can take the hooks off and throw it out and get a good view of what's underneath, you know, structure and whatnot. You can look around with it. It's a pretty cool thing.
That is cool.
The Eco Popper. So ecopopper.net, I think. EcoNet. Go there, check it out. Eco Popper. Next, we got the Soft Science. These are the slip-ons. They're called the Trade Winds. They're called, you know, the athleisure is what they are. They're an athleisure shoe, athletic leisure shoe. It'd be great for the plane. I like to fly. You know, when I used to fly a lot, I'd love to have a pair of slip-ons that I could wear on the plane. They're nice and comfortable. What's great about these is they have the Trilon insert as well as the outsole. They got a really cool little neoprene thing. When you fit on your feet, it's like a sock. You know, the woven top here really hugs your feet, makes you very comfortable. They have a nice silicone non-slip thing on the inside here, so once your foot's in there, it doesn't come flying out all the time.
And the reason why I picked them to be in the products for the permit is because a lot of guys fly fish, no laces, guys.
Nothing can stick on that.
And so you don't have to worry about stripping and getting tangled in your laces.
Real quick, we got the Nasty Ven Venting tool. You know, if you're going to be catching any kind of bottom fish at all, you got to have a venting tool. And this is a really good one. It's made out of all aluminum housing on the outside. It's got a brass push pin inside and a stainless steel spring. Nothing can corrode. It's got a nice stainless steel barrel, a great big one, so you don't have to keep punching the fish, a bunch of holes in it. One punch will do fine. You can adjust it to a big fish or smaller fish by how much, you know. You put a little bit or a lot.
Where do we go to get this?
Well, you have to call 813-917-5282 and call that fella, or go to RD or email rdrlmetals@aol.com. And they've got them.
And they can go on our website. We'll have the address on our website with all the new product
Nasty
information
Ven
like we do
tool.
every week, right, Brie?
Absolutely. That was some good stuff over there.
Worries.
All right, let's get FaceTime back up and say hi to our captain from the Bells Central East region, Jim Ross. What's going on this weekend, Jimmy?
I'll tell you, we're glad these showers have kind of subsided a little bit. Hopefully we can get them things out of the way because
Yes.
we don't need any more water in our lagoons right now. But you know, the permit our region, you can target those fish in the summer months. And most of the guys will get out there and start looking around the 50 to 80 foot wrecks and reefs. And that's where you're going to actually be able to find schools of them in many cases. Live calico and blue crabs are your best offering if you want to try and catch them. And you want to fish the upcurrent side of the structures and keep an eye out for the fish cruising just under the surface, and you can actually sight cast to them. And what they'll do is they'll check the little bits of sargasso weed that are floating in the current to see if there's any crabs on them. They'll actually go up and bump them at times. The other places that you can find permit are the Sebastian Inlet Jetty and the Ponce Inlet Jetty on the outgoing tides. Once again, these fish want a crab dinner, so they're looking for crabs floating out with that current. You want to put your crab rigged under a little bit of a float, and most of our permit, when you do catch them here in the Central East region, are fairly decent size. They're 15 to 25 pound class fish. Now, staying offshore, our king mackerel have been just about everywhere here this past week. There's bait from the beaches all the way to the reefs, and some of the biggest fish right now are coming all the way into the beaches because they're getting ready to spawn on this August full moon phase. Now, this is probably going to occur Thursday night, the 15th, but we may see some of this action last into the weekend. So look for these fish to be feeding heavily during the dawn and dusk periods, so you want to slow troll with a live bait or a frozen ribbon fish. That seems to be the two best ways to get them. And if you're out on the reefs and you want to get some of those other smaller fish and those males that are out there, lip diving plugs like the Rapala Husky Jerk or the X-Rap Magnum or Countdown series are really good options. Now, when you're trolling the lures, you want to fish them at speeds that give your rod tip maximum vibration. So make sure that you're pulling them at that speed so that your rod tip looks like it's about to bounce completely out the end of the boat. Now, I've got a good king mackerel photo here. We were trying out some of the new Okuma Komodo reels the other day, and I actually had my long lost cousin, the Don Ross party, out for the first time we've met, but long lost cousin somewhere down the line, and we actually caught this really nice one. This fish was somewhere around 45 pounds right there on that new Komodo reel.
Ancestry.com got you, did it though, Jimmy?
I'll figure it out.
Inshore, let's go.
Hey, you know what? Inshore, Rick, we've got speckled trout, and everybody loves speckled trout. With all the rain that we've had this past week, and like I've said, we've had excessive amounts of stormwater runoff. The salinity levels are changing in the Indian River and Banana River lagoon systems, and a lot of those fish that were hanging along the shorelines last week, and we talked about in those little outflows and creeks and things, they've moved out to the middle sections of the upper portion of the Indian River and around some of the spoil islands and some of the drop-offs, those 3 to 4 foot drop-offs in particular. So you want to find areas that are a little bit deeper away from the shorelines, that stay away from that runoff, get a little more salinity, that have bait fish around them, and the glass minnows are the key bait this week. So soft plastic like your saltwater assassins, dynamite. Also, the very small Rapala X-Rap minnow style lures are working really good. The little size 08 and every once in a while the size 10, but most of the time the size 8 seems to be working. And our average trout right now is running about 1 to 3 pounds. Now, tarpon, we spoke about tarpon last week. Tarpon are everywhere this week. They're in along the beaches, they're in our rivers, there's tarpon everywhere. And one of the things that you can do is go to those outflows that are kind of pushing the trout away, but the tarpon are definitely hanging around them. They're feeding on all of the little minnows, those little mosquito fish and glass minnows and stuff that are congregated around those outflows. A small little fly like a clouser or any of those little minnow style flies works great for the fish in the lagoon system. For the fish out on the beaches, you can use live pogies, live mullet. We've actually started to have some mullet running down the beach this week. And, if you do like Captain Mike Mann does, you can add a Ponce Inlet. You can always go up to the shrimp boats that are outside of Ponce Inlet or a little bit to the north of the inlet, and you can get some shrimp boat trash. And a lot of our fish are running 70 to 100 pounds right now. And I've got another picture here of one of the fish that we put to the boat this week. We've had multiple fish in the air. We've had quite a few to the boat side, and this is one of those that we were able to get a lip grab on this week.
Good guiding there,
Very
Cap.
nice.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots
Thank
from
you.
the Central East region. He says offshore, king mackerel on the 60 to 90 foot reefs, troll Rapala lipped diving lures, live or frozen baits. for fish up to 40 pounds. And then inshore, speckled trout in Vero Beach area. Fish the grass flats where the mullet pods are present with saltwater assassin 4 to 6 inch soft plastic lures. Okay, we got it.
Where are your manners? You say thank you for great reports, okay?
I
The
did.
Strike Zone Northeast and Yeti Panhandle regions
Somehow or
are
other.
up next. But before we go, we want to remind you that if you want to be up to date on all things fishing in Florida, visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us on YouTube, and check us out on Instagram. We'll be right back.
All right.
Thank you, please.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Rapala, another great day. Startron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Yeti, built for the wild. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper-to-bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Oh, there it is.
You can either stay busy fishing or get busy catching. From Texas to Tampa Bay or Key West to the Carolinas and beyond. For nearly 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites. Ask for Fish Bites and Fish Bites Fight Club lures by name or visit fishbites.com.
Find Florida's soul and discover Crystal River. Explore warm Gulf waters, spring-fed rivers, bountiful lakes, and fantastic fishing. Dive into adventure and enjoy the only place in the world where you can swim with the manatees. Treat yourself and your family to outdoor fun, rich history, and a relaxed coastal lifestyle. Discover Crystal River, Florida.
Welcome back, everyone. Rick, would you want to win a fishing trip to a world-class resort with world-class fishing?
I would.
I would too. Okay, well, you tell your friends and I'm going to tell mine.
Okay.
Harbor Trucks has partnered with Casa Vieja Lodge to send 2 lucky winners to Guatemala for a 4-day, 3-night trip to fish with Rick and me at Casa Vieja Lodge. All you have to do is enter by heading over to our website at FloridaInsiderFishingReport.com.
With a world-class girl. Come
Oh,
on,
shoot,
man.
look what he
Here
just
we
did
go.
there. All right, Captain Tommy Derringer is no stranger to the camera, so let's get him on FaceTime in the Strike Zone Northeast region for a weekend report. Thanks for hosting with me last week. Tommy, you did a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. You made it easy. Everybody did. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Glad Rick's back in there. That's big shoes to fill, man. That's a tough job you got there.
Only size 8.5.
Well, you know, guys, I wish I could tell you we had permit tailing all over the flats, but unfortunately, we just don't really get them here in the Strike Zone Northeast region like you do down south. When we do, it's usually as a bycatch when we're fishing for pompano. Now, we don't talk about fishing from the beach that much, and that's just what pompano and permit fishing is going to be in my region. Now, the permit that are caught here, they're going to be mixed in with those pompano during their migration. Now, I spoke to a few of the best surf fishermen around, and they tell me they do catch a few permit every year, and they're pretty big fish, sometimes in that 15 to even 30-pound range. Now, legendary pompano fisherman Larry Fishman Finch, he's told me the best times to fish for pompano is when the water's right around 70 degrees. Now, there's a few things he looks for when he's targeting those fish on the beach. The first is going to be clean water. Second is you're going to want to make your cast right to where the waves are breaking on the outside sandbar. As those waves crash, it's going to disturb the bottom, in turn disturb the bait, and that's where the fish are going to be feeding. Now, the third is going to be the bait. When the pompano first hit the north end of the region, Larry's going to use small, fresh river shrimp. But as they work their way south, he's going to switch it up to a sand flea. And quite a few anglers do really well just using fish bites. Now, if you want to learn more about pompano and or permit fishing, or as well as beach fishing in general, check out Larry Finch when he does his seminars at Strike Zone in Jacksonville. Or you can even buy some of his instructional videos there in the shop as well. Now, staying inshore, that is, we've got one of the best snook bites in the southern end of the region that I can ever remember. Now, we've had a few pretty mild winters, and that's allowed the snook to increase in size and numbers. Now, I spoke to Captain Chris Herrera from PalmCoastFishing.com. He tells me he's been catching 8 to 10 snook a trip, and that's a lot for around here, when he targets them in Palm Coast this past week. And his clients are tossing topwater plugs and subsurface plugs around mullet schools and schools of whitebait. Yes, whitebait. We usually don't have much whitebait around here, but there's some big schools of them right now in Pellisier Creek and the surrounding areas. Now, they're also catching snook at night in the Daytona and Tomoka area, fishing bridges, docks, and really any kind of lighted areas. A big free-line live shrimp or a pinfish has been getting a lot of bites, and also a big diving plug, especially around the bigger bridges, has been getting its fair share of snook. And I got a photo here. This is Jude Dant from Kentucky with a nice Northeast Florida snook that he caught with Captain Chris Herrera on a topwater plug. Now, moving offshore, and we've got a great mixed bag of snappers happening throughout the region right now. I spoke to Captain Billy Hunsicker from EndlessSummerCharters.com. He tells me the vermilion snapper are spawning around this full moon, and there's some big ones hanging around. Billy said he had over 60 of those beeliners, as we call them here, on his trip earlier this week, and most of those fish were in the 3 to 6 pound range, which is big for those guys. He said the bigger fish, they're going to come from about 140 to 150 foot, and he's catching them on cut squid, sardines, or cut Boston mackerels. Now, Captain Billy said those fish will sit up current from the structure, off the current a little bit, or as he calls it, out in the dirt. Now, aside from the vermilions, there's still some big mangroves and mutton snappers chewing in those same depths as well. And speaking of big snappers, I got a picture here. Captain Jason Hadges from jhookfishingcharters.com sent me this photo of his client, Brian Upshaw, with a monster mango they caught east of St. Augustine.
That is a monster mango. Great picture. All right, what else? One more species to go.
You know what? Talk about kingfish. I spoke to one of our kingfish experts, Captain Rob Bennett from coastalfish.net. He's telling me the kingfish, they've invaded the nearshore reefs out of St. Augustine once again this week. He's had some trips where he's catching over 25 kingfish, and most of them are in the 10 to 20 pound range, with even some bigger fish mixed in there. Now, the one thing is the pogies have been so hit or miss this summer, and right now they're kind of tough to find. So don't forget your sabikis just in case you need to jig up some bait offshore. And finding that bait's going to make or break your day a lot of times kingfishing, but you can troll dead baits and diving plugs as well, especially when the bite is going off like it is right now. And I've got one last picture. I got to thank Captain Rob for calling me into this great kingfish bite last weekend, where my girl Maria Lupe Lopez caught that drag screamer right there.
Yep.
Miss Loopy.
She's always in the show, man. Keep her coming.
She's killing it.
All right, we got to have a guest appearance by her one of these times, Tommy. Thank you so much. Great report. And I'm going to go ahead and get to the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Northeast region. He says inshore, snook and redfish on the topwater plugs first thing in the morning and around the bait schools in the south end of his region from Pellisier Creek into Daytona. And then offshore, mixed bag of mangroves, vermilions, and mutton snappers in 140 to 150 foot depths off of St. Augustine.
All right, let's cast into the Yeti Panhandle region and get our Captain Pat Deneen on the phone, who is telling us all about the permit bite, because there is one. Hi, Pat.
Hey, Brie. Yeah, I tell you what, the permits are caught up here in the Panhandle every year, and certainly more than other South Florida species like snooks and bonefish. Permit are caught pretty much every spring by anglers along the beach, targeting pompanos, set fishing or jig fishing. And then others are caught in the Destin Harbor late winter and early spring around the docks, which is kind of surprising to see them in there when the water's that cold, but they're there. And then we also see them along the beaches late summer, early fall, in the trough along the shore when we're sight fishing for pompano. And just within the past few weeks, anglers over in Perdido Key, the Intercoastal Waterway, they had a pretty consistent permit bite under several lights on the dock lights at night. So permit are caught in the Panhandle. When they show up, they tend to set up residence in an area. And if you know the zip code, you can certainly target them. Bait of choice are live shrimp on a light leader or realistic soft plastic shrimp imitation. And then most of the permit caught up here in the Panhandle, they range 3 to 8 pounds. So they're not the really big ones, but they're certainly bigger than the average pompano. Staying inshore, the blacktip shark fishing along the beach and within the bay is pretty strong right now. Look for the schools of ladyfish and schools of bluefish, and you're most certainly going to find blacktip sharks. St. Joseph's Bay, especially out towards the point and also right outside the canal mouth. The beaches of Shell Island, the Air Force beaches between Fort Walton and Navarre, and the beaches off Fort Pickens are all excellent places to find blacktip sharks. Best bait is going to be a small ladyfish, either whole or butterflied, but you can also get bites using herring, cigar minnows, and bluefish. My favorite way to fish for them is with medium heavy spinning tackle with short trays of wire and then a circle hook, and I like to sight cast them as they cruise in that gully between the bars. But you can also set fish using a chunk of ladyfish either under a float or dead on the bottom. Coastal blacktips average 20 to 25 pounds, but you can bump into some that are well over 40 pounds, though, and they jump. They're pretty good little game fish. Moving offshore, Rick, the amberjack fishing, particularly on the deeper wrecks and reefs, remains very good. The shallower state water barges and concrete piles and wrecks, they've been picked over pretty good, so head deeper. If you target sites in 150 to 400 feet of water, use the appropriate amount of lead for the depth and current you're dealing with, and have some good frisky live baits, like a blue runner or a mullet. You're sure to catch some quality jacks. Stay away from smaller, slower baits like pinfish or cigar minnows. You're going to catch probably more snappers than yard jacks. Use a long leader and to give your bait plenty of freedom, and the amberjacks are running over 50 pounds. On Monday, there was an 85-pounder weighed in at the Destin on the harbor docks there. So, man, that's a big donkey there.
That is a big one.
Hey, finally offshore, if you want to catch a bunch of fish, some of which you can bring home to eat and a bunch to let go, use a 2-hook chippy rig out in the Gulf, baited with cut bait or a cut squid, and fish natural bottom in 80 to 110 feet of water. The triggerfish are thick as fleas, but you're going to wade through those triggerfish and will catch some mingo snappers, some white snappers, and possibly some black snappers to bring home to eat. Use 3 to 4 ounces of lead, depending on the current, 1/0 to 3/0 circle hooks. Cut squid is the easiest bait to come by, and it works really well, but doesn't stay on the hook very well, especially with the triggerfish. So cut ladyfish or bonita chunk, hook through the skin, tends to stay on the hook much better and also catches fish. These are all smaller fish, so use medium to light tackle, maximize your fun.
All right, thank you so much, Pat Tar. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. He says inshore, get your snorkel gear and head to St. Joe Bay and cash in on a very good season of bay scallops that's going on. That's cool to hear.
Scallops.
And then offshore, big amberjacks on the metal wrecks in 250 to 300 feet of water using live hardtails.
We're maximizing the fun. Scallops on Florida.
Yeah.
It's Florida.
Florida.
Florida. All right, I'm getting excited to head to the Discover Crystal River Northwest region next. Rick, are you?
That's why they got some scallops as well.
They do. They do have scallops. We'll be right back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Florida.
That goes with the snappers.
Ay.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Harbor Trucks. Visit harbortrucks.com. Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Suffix, always use the best line. The IGFA, Fish for the World. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And Bells, everything you need to live life local.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO Offshore.
It's a different kind of work week out here. You need the power, performance, and enough attachments to scratch any itch. A subcompact tractor built to get any job done right. The Kubota BX Series. Best-selling subcompact tractor in America. Now get a BX 1880 for payments as low as $99 a month for 84 months plus a 6-year warranty. 54-inch mower deck included.
Find a Kubota dealer near you at gokubota.com.
Pump up the performance in all of your engines.
into gear with StarTron.
Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of new and used car and truck inventory in Southwest Florida. Our used vehicle inventory goes through a 120-point inspection process performed by certified technicians. Exclusive to Florida Insider Fishing Report viewers is our Peace of Mind Harbor Truck Warranty. If you don't see what you're looking for, give us a call and we can get it for you. Go to harbortrucks.com and click on the Florida Insider Fishing Report tab.
Today's Power Pole tip of the week is about, does the power pole add a lot of weight to the transom of the boat? And simply, guys, it doesn't. Now we're talking about a bracket that weighs anywhere between 5 and 7 pounds, and depending on the model that you get, our micro is 7 with the blade, 10-foot blade, being 27 pounds. So simply, we're not gonna add a lot of weight. You're not gonna change the draft of the boat. You're not gonna have to re-prop your boat. And more importantly, the pumps have been mounted in the floor so that they're out of the way and not on the transom. So many times when we add weight to the boat, it affects the performance, and that's not gonna happen by adding 2 power poles. So if you have any questions whatsoever, you can either go online to powerpole.com or you can go down to your local dealer. And that's today's Power Pole tip of the week.
It's a good tip, Rick.
Well,
Good to
thank
know.
you, Miss Bree. You know, the
welcome.
other thing you got to remember about power poles is all the different color options that you have.
Color?
I'm building a new Pathfinder as we speak, and I'm going to have blue power poles on the next one, not compared to the black ones that I have.
I thought you'd have bright red. Ricky red, red is your thing. Okay, anyways, if you don't know, now you know. Your captain is all over that permit bite in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. So give us your hagalicious report, Jeff.
You know I love chasing tarpon. Well, permit's my number 2. Love targeting. And we've got some great permit fishing in our southern half of the region. Our big fish usually start showing up that early April to the end of March. Right in there, we usually get those big fish and those 30 to 45 pound fish. I mean, big fish. Not far behind them are our schoolie-sized fish, those 10 to 20 pounders, and they're not really that far, just a couple weeks behind those big fish. And then we get them in those big schools out there offshore. A dollar-sized crab, you guys have been talking about it the whole show, I'm sure, is the best bait, and it's hard for a permit to pass up a crab dimmer. But 25 to 40 pound Suffolk fluorocarbon leader works really good depending on your water clarity. A 2-aught to 4-aught hook. If you can't get crabs, the best next bet is shrimp, and either a 1/4 ounce or 1/8 ounce jig head works really good. I use those hook-up jig heads, and they work really well. Another good tip for permit fishing. I'm usually either on my spot lock on my trolling motor or anchored up with a anchor ball out. And I usually start my drags off really light if I'm on structure that's got high relief and they can get underneath it and break you off. And I'll start off with a light drag. If we get a big one on, I'll either follow them with the trolling motor if I'm on spot lock or throw the anchor ball and chase after them with the trolling motor. And they usually make a pretty straight first run, and those bigger fish, you can get them away from those wrecks that can break you off down there. Chase them down, tighten up the drag once you get on top of them when you get away from that wreck, and it'll help you catch a few more fish. Little tip there. Gag grouper right now in the whole region remains strong. It's a little hot right now, so deeper water's been better right now. That 90 to 250 foot range is holding some good fish over rock piles and ledges. Standard bottom rigs are working good with 100 to 150 pound fluorocarbon leader, 8 to 12 ounces of lead, depending on your current you've got out there. And we got a moon coming up right now, so you're going to be using some heavier lead. 7/0 to 12/0 circle hook, depending on the size bait you guys are using. Start off with cut bait. I always say this when bottom fishing. Get those fish fired up. Bite slows down a little bit, then fire down those live pinfish, big fish to keep the bite going. Moving inshore, a lot of people have been asking me about this, and still a lot of people going. Captain Mario Costello, Tall Tales Charters out of Plantation on Crystal River, reports good scalloping around the Homosassa wreck in that 5 to 7 feet of water. Clean water is a must right now, and multiple areas that have those, the areas that have multiple types of grass, are finding holding better scallops right now. And the outgoing lowest part of the tide is the best. And I've got a photo here of a nice mess of scallops caught by Mario on a recent charter.
Nice.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yummy.
Oh.
Yep. All right, what else?
Keep an eye on the inshore. I got lots of redfish reports. Captain Jimbo, saltwater assessment fishing directors from Cedar Key reports inshore the redfish bite's been steady around the lower, with lower slot fish being caught on cut mullet fished around the bottom on oyster bars, and that's been working really good in his region. Captain JB of JB Charters out of Apalachicola says the redfish bite has been in the bay, and they're feeding around the marshes, oyster bars on live mullet and pinfish. Carolina rig with 12 to 14 inches of fluorocarbon leader, 2-aught circle hook. Back to Captain Mario out of Plantation. He said the redfish bite in his area has been around the mangrove islands and keys from Yankeetown to Homosassa, and he's working the mangrove islands with active mullet schools around the points and around coves that the mullet are hanging around. He's using both pinfish and live select shrimp on an 1/8-ounce jig head. And I've got quite a few photos here. I got 3 nice photos of some redfish our captains turned in this week.
Right. Oh, nice.
Got
Love
some good
seeing
ones
the
there.
kids, man.
Oh,
Love
yeah.
seeing the kids. So, Hag,
Hope
I
you
have
had a good time in the Bahamas.
Yeah, we did have a great time. I'll call you later and let you know about it. But I do have a question for you. You know, a little further north of our areas where we had the red tide, have you seen a lot of the redfish slide into there, you know, north of in the middle part of your region?
Yes. A lot of our schools have pushed kind of further north, Anclo, and all the way up into the Panhandle. Our schools, redfish in Tampa Bay, Sarasota, all of that, have kind of, they're either up in the bay and not coming down to the lower parts of the bay where the red tide got affected. And most of those fish are they got great schools of redfish up Cedar Key and Homosassa, Crystal River, and the Anclo area right now.
All right, good to hear. All right, we're going to go ahead and thank you. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the anytime sunscreen and mosquito repellent hotspots from the northwest region. He says inshore, snook along the beaches and passes, use free line, pinfish, and sardines. And then offshore, mangrove snappers on the high relief structure in 10 to 50 feet of water. Use a tailhook shrimp or a small pinfish on a knocker rig, Brie.
Very white over here is what we got. All right, we've exhausted our regions and our captains for 1 week, but stay tuned because we're telling you what to expect next week right here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Can't wait.
Titan and Titan XD Diesel from Harbor Trucks has America's best truck warranty, 5 years, 100,000-mile bumper to bumper, and can tow up to 12,000 pounds. Harbor Trucks has the largest selection of Titan XD and Titan in Florida, starting at $29,000. Harbor Trucks is conveniently located halfway between Tampa and Naples. Harbor Trucks, the place to buy.
Master your most challenging offshore experience with confidence and ease with Yamaha Helmmaster. Precise, intuitive control on the open seas. Unrivaled ease for maneuvering and docking in port. And now SetPoint adds 3 new dimensions to boat control. Maintain boat position with fish point, or a position and heading with stay point, or a heading while you drift with drift point. Yamaha Helmmaster, now with SetPoint. Complete digital control for today's larger offshore boats.
For the bass that thinks it's a bulldog. For the walleye that thinks it's a freight train. For the tuna that thinks it's a torpedo. For the tarpon that thinks it's a tarpon. You need the mono that thinks it's a braid. Suffix Advance. New Advanced Mono with HMPE braid molecules for strength, abrasion resistance, and low stretch. Suffix Advance. The mono that thinks it's a braid.
Do things. Be sane. Don't fritter away your time. Create. Act. Take a place wherever you are. And be somebody. Get action.
Make sure to tune in next week because we are talking fishing off piers and jetties.
Yetis. Yes.
Yetis. Rick, I'm happy you're back.
I'm happy to be back.
We all missed you.
Oh, thank you.
You did good assimilating back into our show.
In case you don't know, that's Brie sucking up.
Yeah, it is. We'll see you guys next week.
I missed you too, Rick.
Got rubber banded.
Bye. I missed you too.